Hi guys, happy Saturday. Sorry it's so late popping on. I had a kind of a it's been an emotional couple weeks because my book's getting ready to come out, so I'm kind of hashing through, reliving and rereading all the words that I wrote, and just being where I didn't really think I'd be when this book came out, but nevertheless, it doesn't change my husband Matthew, his life, his legacy, and how the Lord has used him, is using him, and will continue to use his life. And as his widow, and with his mother and his sister, in agreement and excited to see Matt's life not be in vain. It's just a journey that is definitely still doing an excavation inside of me, alongside me walking into my gifts, um, taking the brunt of the opposition, and that includes people that I know are slandering me, talking about me, people that used to be my friends, that the Lord has revealed to me that He will take care of. But it's hard because when you go through consecration and sanctification, when you give God your yes, when you decide to allow the Lord to hold you accountable for areas that didn't look like Him, which He's done in my life. And if you are watching me, I'm sure that's a lot of you. People don't like that sometimes because they're not doing it. And this isn't a judgment. That's what they don't understand, though. We're living our lives for God. If it makes others uncomfortable, that's called the conviction of the Holy Spirit. And the Bible talks about this. So we have to move forward. I know in my life, I have been willing to and have apologized for anybody I have wronged. I've taken responsibility for any mistake I've made, and I will continue to, should the Lord present me with those opportunities. But at the same time, I've been forgiven, and I'm now being used for purpose, because this is the call that I've had on my life, even if it took me till I was 45 years to walk into it. So I encourage you to allow the Lord to thicken your skin, and the thickening of I hear you, He says, to thicken your spirit. Because the thickening of the skin is a human way to approach opposition, and we don't wrestle against flesh and blood. We wrestle against spirits and principalities. Okay, so we have to focus on how grateful it is for the Lord to expose to us who was never for us. And sometimes the Lord takes people out just for a season, and He does a work, and then He reunites. And sometimes people, I have wonderful people like this that just love me from afar, because they're like, hey, I can't even begin to understand what's going on with you, but I know it's real and I see it, and so I'm gonna allow that to happen to you. And I will tell you, those are some great people. I know it feels like maybe they're not there for you, but they're being there for you the way they know how, and that's just to support you in the isolation that the Lord is putting you in order for you to walk into these gifts and to further the kingdom, and to share the gospel, right? So be thankful for those people too, and be thankful when the Lord takes people out of your life. Pray for them for sure, but if you upset their spirit and you've done nothing to them and you're sure you haven't, you're just living in purpose, then clearly, you guys, that's in the Bible. It's their spirit is bothered by something that you're choosing to do, and if it bothers them, that's something, that's a mirror God will show them, and He will hold them accountable. Oh, trust me, the Lord has assured me that we are in a season of those that have come up against us and slander us and talked about us behind our backs. There is about to be retribution. So our job is to just pray and sit back and let our Father deal with those. We are on our Father's business, right? So today I wanted to talk about, this is a devotional I don't often read, and I want to get to all of it. It's called Seasons of Waiting. I haven't read it in a while, but the reason it really resonated to me is because as I continue to move this book forward about my late husband Matthew's life and his brain injury and how traumatic that experience was for me, this book is from a Christian psychologist standpoint, and so this was an interesting part of the devotional today that I really wanted to share. And I know it's going to really bear witness to a lot of you. So as I walk out, getting this book finally into the hands of those that have been asking for so long, I get it. Me too. But God keeps turning the pages, and sometimes He pauses it. Sometimes He puts a bookmark and He slams it. So I have to take heed to the Holy Spirit, and it will be out exactly when it's supposed to. And again, guys, there's going to be 3 books that will tell my life story, because A, God is still writing it, and B, it leaves off at a point where I'm still living part of that out, right? So I do hope you enjoy it, but let me get into the devotional. So it says, God is our empathetic witness. It says, our life is full of brokenness. How can we live with that brokenness without becoming bitter and resentful, except by returning again and again to God's faithful presence in our lives? And I'm hearing the Lord say, the only thing that you want to return to again and again and again is the Lord. So I used to have PTSD, and so PTSD is something you're reliving again and again and again. And then because your brain does that, you begin to develop ways to cope with that. So when it does happen, and most of that coping is unhealthy for most of us, right? And we have to work through that, and we have to conquer that through the scriptures, right? But He's saying ultimately, the again and again and again, I'm hearing the Holy Spirit, is the best again and again is him. And so every time we take that thought captive and we say the thought that keeps repeating and telling us lies, we have to take it captive and bring it back to the one who doesn't lie, and that's the Lord, okay? So it says, a therapist I admired once said, anytime you feel alone in your pain, that is trauma. Let me repeat that. A therapist I admire once said, anytime you feel alone in your pain, that is trauma. And you know how we know that's trauma and not the Lord? It's because we haven't invited him into the trauma. We think we have, but ultimately there's something we're holding back. So if we feel alone, we know we're never alone, right? When the Lord is with us, the Holy Spirit is there because of Jesus and his sacrifice. So that is trauma. Identify that. I definitely have in my life. The one statement completely transformed the way I worked with my client. This one statement completely transformed the way I work with my clients. Remember, this is a Christian therapist. I realized that even though our painful moments differ in severity, that when we bear them alone, that's an experience that becomes traumatic. Definitely, because you learn to become self-sufficient. And first of all, that takes us away from God. And secondly, we don't have our own strength to battle something that is traumatic. We just don't. We need something higher than us, bigger than us, and that's the Creator. Alice Miller, the renowned childhood researcher and psychotherapist, coined the term enlightened witness, more commonly known as empathetic witness. According to Miller, enlightened witness is a person who expresses love toward the sufferer during a painful time in their lives. And I know for me, the Holy Spirit has always been like this inside of me. People have always been drawn to me when they're in pain. And I love that they are, because they're drawn to the Holy Spirit. But I do have that. I just, especially seeing my husband suffer so much, when I see anyone suffer, I don't care what they've done or who they are. I have this heart. Now, it's not a heart of being a doormat, because we want to make sure we have a boundary of like our own self-preservation. But I do. It's just Christ, he suffered so we could suffer with him, so that when we see others suffer, we would have his heart, okay? A person expresses love toward the sufferer during a painful time in their lives is called an enlightened witness. Although the enlightened witness may not be able to remove the painful experience, because you can't, they are a validating presence who reminds the sufferer they aren't alone and that what they are walking through matters. She addresses the question about why some who experienced abuse as children become perpetrators of abuse later in life, and why some did not. The distinguishing factor, and I could tell you, my husband Matthew did not have an easy childhood, but he experienced some hard things, and I won't get into specifics, but he did choose the different path. And as I was married to him, he shared some of those traumas in his life. But I always loved that, and it wasn't easy. And I'm not judging anyone who's had a different path, but I did always admire a lot in him that he stepped up and said, I saw this go on in my childhood and that go on in my childhood, and I just made a promise that I would never let that be a repetitive cycle in my life. So he was a generational curse breaker. It was awesome. He really was. And there's many of you out there that just don't even know you are. And God's trying to do that work in you. He's trying to let you be the generational curse breaker in your family, okay? The distinguishing factor was an empathetic witness, that the ones that did not let it perpetrate in their life. Those who did not repeat their abuse with others had an empathetic witness in their lives who recognized the injustices they suffered. And some people discover that later in life. Sometimes that's just the way it happens, guys. And so again, no judgments. The role of the empathetic witness is perhaps the most powerful gift I offer my clients. I can turn back time and reverse the pain. I can't turn back time and reverse the experience or pain, but I can create a safe space to untangle the pain their trauma left behind. Maya Angelou said, I love this, guys, listen to this. There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you. That is, let me say that again. Maya Angelou said, there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you. When our stories live in isolation, we not only feel alone, but also believe we are powerless in our pain. An empathetic witness validates our sufferer's story, easing the agony. And so let me lead out with this. That's how I feel as an author. It says that we lead others out of their pain by not isolating our own story. So this is the Great Commission. We suffer with Christ, I hear you, so we can reign with Christ. So my suffering as a widow, and many of the things you'll read about one day, is me not staying isolated in my pain. It's me saying, I'm willing to let the world judge me, let the world say what they want about me, if it can help anybody else, because of that empathetic witness inside of me, that witness for the gospel. Jesus was the ultimate empathetic witness, was he not? And so he allowed himself to suffer out of isolation for the whole world, so that he can say, I know your pain, my child. And if we can share our pain after we come up out of it by not staying isolated and letting the Creator in, then we can then lead others out of their suffering. We can't take it away from them or rewind time and act like it never happened, but we can be that empathetic witness. So ask yourself today, how can you be an empathetic witness for the gospel? Okay. I hope this blessed you guys. Get this devotional. It's great. It's from a psychotherapist, a Christian, Seasons of Waiting. And not quite sure the author, but you see the picture right there. Okay. I hope this blessed you guys.